Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Little, and you're listening to the Filmmaking Friends Podcast, episode number 16. Today, we're hanging out with full-time filmmaker, director, and good friend, Miss Claire Niederpruem. We're going to talk about her modern retelling of Little Women and what it was like to direct Leah Thompson on set. Now, you're going to hear a little background noise from traffic, but I promise you the interview is still really, really good. So I'm very excited to talk to you because we're going to talk about directing our first features.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk mostly about directing your first feature. We'll talk a little bit about directing mine, but really want to talk about yours.
Oh, we have to hear your stories
My
as well.
stories, yes.
Yeah.
Well, my comments will come off of things that you say. So we'll start with that. So your movie is Little Women.
Yes.
You had a pretty awesome sized release for the size of the budget.
Yes. Yeah, it was a very low budget independent film. But we were picked up by PureFlix, the distributor, and so they did a wide theatrical release.
Yeah, like, was it 650 screens?
Yeah.
That's really impressive. Now, I've seen it on IMDb Pro, what I believe is the budget, but do you tell people what the budget is?
Yeah, we're at about, we're under...
Well, you can just say what's on the internet if that's what you want to say.
250? Is
yeah,
that
that's what's on the internet.
Yeah.
We can just claim that. You want to claim that?
Yeah, I'm going to claim it.
All right, we'll claim 250.
It's close enough.
Good
Honestly,
enough, yeah.
I don't know exactly where we land, but I know it's around there.
The point is you've done something extremely amazing with very little amount of money. Because 250, I mean, to some people sounds like a lot of money. 250 doesn't go really far.
No.
So let's talk about the particulars of it for just a moment. For that kind of budget and for the kind of movie you're making, how many shoot days?
17.
17?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty good for that budget,
yeah.
right? Because a lot of times when you're at that budget, you're shooting more like maybe 12 days, like 2 6-day weeks, and that's kind of it. And then maybe a little second unit dabbled in there once you realize the fixes you need to hide, right?
Yeah,
but 17's pretty good.
One thing that was nice is one of our locations, most of our locations actually were in one house, and we basically just rented the house for the month so that our production
smart.
designer could go in there.
Yeah.
And so we already had that cost, and so to add a few more days, I think originally when we had done the budget, we were at about 15, and one of my producers, got out 2 more days, which was so helpful.
You and sorry, who did you write it with?
Christy.
Oh, yeah,
Schumann,
Christy.
yeah.
Who also was the editor too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You guys, you guys are talking, hey, let's do Little Women, blah, blah, blah. That's all great. You can write a script for free. That's all great. But at some point, that turns into, we need a business plan and we need to go raise money.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you, with 0 feature credits to your name, get someone to be convinced that it's good to spend $250,000 to let you direct something? You like that question?
Yeah, I like that because I'm still not even sure how it happened, but I'll tell you my take on it.
Then I'll tell you how it happened for me, okay?
Perfect.
But you tell me how it happened for you.
So I think one thing, like having your name on the script, right? At least that's the one thing you can control. Like how I even got from acting to writing was basically out of creative frustration of not getting enough
true. Yeah, you've done acting
jobs
before, yeah.
Yeah, and so I started writing because I just wanted to tell stories, and acting was really like a part-time job for me at the time.
Yeah.
And so after we had the finished product, I sent it to Mary Beth Sprose at Paulus Productions, who I had met with because she had seen Once I Was a Beehive.
Oh, and that
which I was a part of, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just sent it to her not thinking I would hear anything back like you do with most production companies that you send it to.
Yeah.
And it was over Christmas break, and she called me and said, I really enjoyed the script. Why don't you come in and we'll chat about it?
Oh, cool.
And at the time, we really weren't even talking about who was going to direct it. We were just trying to get it done.
Okay.
So she really responded to the script. So I feel like that's the thing that we had that was like our ticket in.
Were you hoping at that point that you would still get to direct it and you just hadn't said it to anyone? Or were you even thinking it?
I was thinking it, but I hadn't said it. And it's a scary thing, right? To all of a sudden be like, you know what? I've never done this before, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
But so we had met with her, and they decided to put in the first chunk of the money.
Oh, okay.
And then we independently raised the other half. But that was basically because we already had the first chunk. So it was really Paulus Productions that they took a chance to be like, hey, we're going to put in $100,000 into this.
Right.
And then once you have that, as you know, it's easier to go find the rest of the money.
Yeah, I think when you have one investor,
especially when they feel like they have all the skin in the game, that can be tricky to find that one person. But when there's multiple people putting in there, and you guys putting in sweat equity, I'm sure, as well, there's skin in the game from multiple places. And so I think people are like, okay, you know what? If this boat is going to sink, other people are going down with me,
exactly.
right? It's
I'm
not
there
just
alone.
me. Yeah. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
And so, and then at one meeting, while we were talking about fundraising for it, I said, well, I was thinking maybe I could direct it. And I kind of looked around and expected everyone to be like, no. But everyone was like, oh, okay, let's think about that. Yeah. And then a few weeks later, I had to go into Paulist, and I had to basically create like a pitch deck of what I wanted the film to look like, my vision of it.
Sure.
And, I put a ton of time and energy into it. And I think I overdid it, but I think that's what I needed to do to prove to them that I had a vision of what I think it could look like.
So you basically kind of a lookbook of sorts, right?
A lookbook of like, okay, this is what I kind of imagine the house to look like. This is how I kind of want to shoot it. This is the feel. These are the films I am referencing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, to make sure that you're on par with the vision of what maybe they would want the movie to turn out like.
Yeah, and then after that meeting was kind of when they felt okay. They felt good about it, and so.
So was there any like little pep talk or any little like, okay, Claire, don't blow this?
Yeah,
we're going to assign you someone to watch over you the whole time, or was that kind of part of it all? Or?
It was, looking back, it felt like that, but I think I had it actually pretty easy. One thing I did was I hired people who are more experienced than me, and so did the production team, and that was really helpful because, I could look to people for answers to my questions,
a safety net,
and if
right?
something, exactly. And, I have a good amount of director friends, and I reached out to them and just asked them all their advice and what they would do and how they prep. Because, prepping is a big part of this. And sometimes you just sit there and be like, what am I going to do? Like, I didn't even know how to start, So I read all the books and I talked to people and I just gathered information, which was all good. But then on the day is when you learn the most of what to do.
Yeah.
And it was funny, my first AD, Brent Geisler, who I don't know if you've worked with before.
Brent,
but,
yes, we've worked together on, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I know him very well.
He said, he's like, watching you from your first couple of days to like a weekend was really interesting, because the first couple of days I was just like, more agreeable, more, okay, let's try this. And then a weekend I kind of realized where my boundaries were and what I could do and what I couldn't do and what I wanted. So really, a lot of it is just getting on set and working that muscle, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I think that, I think film books are really great.
Yeah.
And you can learn great facts from film books. But I've met some people that have read every film book out there, and they get on set and they just fumble around and they're lost. And it's like, being on set is the greatest place to learn.
The one place where I was really inept was with camera, because I had never even like touched the camera before, and it was a scary thing to me. I was like, I don't even know what to do. But you know what?
There's so many choices, right?
Yes, but I just learned by doing, and I'm still learning, and had a great DP, and so
Now, talking about the DP, I've never met the DP. Her name is
Anka Malatinska.
Who did a great job.
Yeah.
What I actually want to ask you is how nervous you were directing your first real famous person, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I did this. I think it was my second or third movie. I did this movie called Everything You Want for ABC Family. And Edie McClurg, who is the secretary from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I was so nervous. She was very nice to me, but I remember just being so nervous around her. How was it for you with Miss Leah Thompson?
Yeah, same. So Leah read the script, and then she's like, well, I want to meet this director before I sign on to the project, which is
they always
terrifying.
Want to do that, yeah.
And so she wanted to meet at this coffee shop close by at 7 a.m. or something. I was so nervous. And I get there early, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she going to think of me?
Yeah.
And the first thing she says to me, she looks at me, she's like, how old are you? And I'm like, oh gosh, this is not getting off to a good start.
Yeah, she thinks you're still in high school, right? Like, you got to get to class in like 30 minutes. Like, what's your first class today in high school?
Mm-hmm. But then we sat down, we just started chatting, and she like gave me a hug, and she was so warm, and she's really an advocate for women in film and female directors. So
That's great.
that was nice because she has 2 daughters who are in the business who are around my age, and so I think she kind of she understands where I was at, and so after that meeting, I left, and I remember thinking like, I think it went okay, but I don't know what she's gonna say. Yeah. And then later that day, it was like, no, it's good. Like, she wants to do it, and it's all okay. But then having her come on set was a whole other thing, because she's been on so many sets and she's worked with so many good directors. You're like, But in a way, I was so busy. I don't know if you felt like this. It's like, you got to get your shot, right? You have to do it, and so you just kind of be like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell Leah Thompson where I need her to stand. Yeah. And then maybe give her a note. Yeah. If it's not working. Yeah. Which was really scary, but she was really good at being supportive and also collaborating, right? So it's that fine line of like knowing what you want, but then also listening to your actor and knowing. So I really was terrified, but at the same time, kind of just focusing on the work is what got me through it. It was like, okay, well, we still have to shoot 12 pages today, so somehow we're going to get this done. Yeah. Did you have this moment when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so not qualified to direct this right now, and I have to pretend, I have to act like I know what's going on? I mean, how often do you have that feeling on set? So it was funny. Kurt Knight, another director friend I had, said that so like a few days before I started filming, he's like, there's going to be moments when you just want someone else to direct. Like when you just want to like hand over the baton to someone else and be like, you know what, can you just solve this problem? Yeah. And there was like 2 distinctive times on set in Little Women when I remember that. And one was the day we had horses, which, as you know, I'm sure is not, but it's just everything was going wrong. Actors all claim that they're really good at riding horses, and they're not. No. They never are. And then you ask them to get on the horse, and they're like, now? You're like, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, horses and actors never goes well. No, it's never, ever. It's very true. Yeah. And so we kind of had that situation, and we had like horses that weren't that well trained, but it was great that we could even get horses. Yeah. And it was just not working out. And everyone was angry and also like nervous that something was going to go wrong. And so finally, like my first AD was like, we got it. We're done. Like we can't do this anymore. Like we can't put them back on the horses. It's going to go bad. And I knew I would never get a chance to get any of that footage again because, on a low budget movie, you're like, when are you going to pick it up? And I left that day and I was like, fine, I guess that's all we got. And I walked off set. And the producers came to me and kind of had a moment of like, you can't leave set like that. All these people have worked so hard for you. And I knew that. It was just that I was so frustrated with how the day went. But it was such a good lesson for me to learn. I woke up the next morning and I was like, thanked everyone for being there and just said, I'm so grateful for this. But I realized that you also have to be a leader. It's not always, it's not just about picking your shots and casting and all that and working with your actors. It's like, oh no, all these people are working for you and you have to keep them motivated. You have to keep the energy positive. And to learn to be that leader was not the easiest thing for me. And I think I did a good job in the end, but it was a big lesson to learn. I don't think people tell you that part of directing. I think, really, to be honest with you, one of the biggest actors on the set is the director. Yeah. Because you have to learn to talk to each person in the way they like to be spoken to. So, you're constantly like going, I need this person to do this, and I need to talk to them a certain way, or I need to say things a certain way. So you're constantly thinking, how am I being perceived? How do I communicate this clearly? Exactly. So it is a lot. And I'm not saying that you're acting the whole time, but I'm just saying you're very aware of what you're saying, what's coming out of your mouth. You're extremely aware of it because there's an end result you're trying to get to, and you know that there's a path you have to follow to get it from that person, and you have to sort of sometimes be an actor and be extra positive about things when they're not going well, because you're going to get there eventually, but if you're too negative about it, you're not going to get there. Exactly. So you're like, hey, guys, great take. Yep. I love it. Let's do one more. I want to try something. Yes. Let's tweak this one thing just to see what happens, because we got the other one, we got that one, but let's just see as an alternative. I just want to have some options in it. Let's just try it. When really what you're really saying is,
wow, that sucked. I'm never going to use that one. That's straight to DVD for sure.
Yes.
We need another take. But you don't want to say that unless you're
Right.
really good friends and they know that it's okay that you say that to them, right?
No, but you're so right. It's like you have to, I don't want to say manipulate, but it's like, it's just, you have to be very cautious of how you go about doing things. And that
Yeah.
was a big lesson for me. What about on Saints and Soldiers? Did you have a day
I'm
where
trying
you
to think. No, I don't.
wanted to walk out?
Oh, I made that movie a long time ago now.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing though, the actors want to feel safe. They want to feel like you create a safe environment, that you're their protector, and that when you call cut, that you need to reinforce. And reinforce doesn't have to be totally fake, like, oh my gosh, wow, you're the most amazing actor ever. But it needs to be supportive, because what would happen, especially on Saints and early on, is I would call cut, and then I would be like, okay, I'd be thinking like, okay, now, will this cut with the other shot? And I would be like, have my head down, and I'd be thinking, I'm like, okay, yeah, that'll work. Okay, let's move on. Well, to an actor, it's like, he's staring at the ground, he's deciding if it sucked or if it was just bad, and now he's saying it'll do. I think he hated it, right?
Yes.
So now I always come in like, okay, great. I think it's really great. We've got it. Let's try something if I don't think it's working. Or I'll say, how do you guys feel about it? Was anything not working for you? Like, I just immediately engage with them. So that was kind of like one of the first things I went.
No, I absolutely agree. Like, and I agree from an actor standpoint too. Like, working with different directors, you want to feel like you can try something, but that they can also say things to you, and you have to be able to have that open communication. And it always, you're right, it has to stay positive, because the minute an actor starts to feel like this director hates me or hates what I'm doing, you're just getting bad results from then on out.
Yeah,
right?
because they can't concentrate on what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
and they can't play, and they need to be able to play in that environment. And
what was for you? What was the funnest? I know, I mean, that's not even really a word. The most fun, or the most rewarding moment on set for you, where you just felt like, I love my job, I love what I'm doing right now. I mean, maybe it was like that all the time, but
no, it's those magical moments, right? Like,
do you have a favorite scene from the movie where you're just like, oh my gosh, this came together so beautifully?
Actually, the last scene in the movie, or anything really that happened in the attic. So the attic is a big location in the film.
It's where they do a lot of their role playing.
Exactly.
And
it's where
plays.
they grow up, right?
Yeah,
It's like where they go from their childhood to their adulthood, and it's always just the sisters. And my production designer just made it incredibly beautiful, and so almost like any direction we shot was just so full and rich. And we put a lot of candlelight in there and a lot of Christmas lights, and so it was just, it had this like magical feel towards it. And then when we put the girls in there, I just think their chemistry together was heightened in that environment. And so anything up there were the moments where I would like squeeze Christy, who was standing next to me, and just be like, oh, this is what I had envisioned in my mind. And, so, and there was a lot of other times where things weren't what I envisioned. And so when you felt like, it's a catch-22, and one thing, like, I really had wanted to do like Movi Steadicam stuff, but we couldn't really afford an extra operator, and my DP wasn't super comfortable with the equipment that we could afford.
Sure.
So she ended up doing a lot handheld, which I didn't go into thinking this was a handheld film, because it's very beautiful and refined.
You wouldn't think that style would support it. Yeah.
But she did it, and the first time she did it, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it was a beautiful mistake, right? It was like, oh, we can't afford to actually move around the way I want to, but having it be handheld made it feel so intimate in that space. And you felt like you were playing with the characters, and so I loved that moment of realizing you could get something even better than what you thought.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about
No. I totally agree. In fact, when I shot Saints and Soldiers, basically because we're out in the snow and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably like 80% handheld, but I did it so steady that a lot of people just assumed it wasn't handheld, Like there were parts where it's very aggressive, but just, it's like handheld, but it's not like
not shaky.
It's not like
Yeah.
Born Identity where like I don't know what I'm
Right.
looking
I
at.
can't- yeah.
Right? Obviously that wouldn't have been good for your show. But yeah, handheld is a really powerful thing. Okay, so here's the DP me asking you a DP
Yes.
question before
Yeah.
we have to wrap up here in a minute. But
Now that you said your handheld is that steady, I'm like, well, when are we going to work together? Right?
well, yeah. Well, when you when we do Saints and Soldiers 4,
Yeah.
I'm bringing you on. I'll shoot it for you. We'll shoot the whole thing handheld.
The girl version.
Yeah. We'll bring it. It'll all be all women.
All women, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. My DP question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite lens?
My favorite is the 100 right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's
course.
just because I'm telling you, like, you shoot a woman on 100 and
Yeah.
it's just like beautiful.
Well, yeah.
And
Sure.
so that's the one that when I feel like you're kind of like, oh gosh, how do we make this more pretty than the actual shot is 100. But I think I tend to go either like really long or really wide. Like I also really like a 25. So those are kind of I like the extremes.
Yeah, you and I think along the same lines.
Yeah.
You know, you can't really go wrong with 100.
You know what we did too is we only used the 100 on our main girl when she was with her romantic lead.
Yeah, there's obviously good story points when
Yeah.
yes.
And I see what you're saying.
Yes.
It's like you can't shoot a whole film on that because then it loses its gravity.
It's power, right? If
Yeah.
you're always shooting on 100, then there's something special about the 100.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but I'm learning more about that, and I love it. I love what you can do and what you can manipulate and what you can create, and you know, different faces look good on different things. And
No, you're right. It's good to try all the lenses, all the camera moves, all of that. Then you find out what your style is and all that. All right, before we wrap up, if you could have your druthers, if you could do anything, what would your next movie be for you?
You know, I love epic period
But just no
I would
issue
do
here.
I would do like a Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
like,
you would do
yes.
yeah?
I would do something, or even or even like
You love period, right?
I love period pieces. And
even though this is a modern take on Little Women.
But that's because, I mean, honestly, it's because we wanted to do an independent, low-budget film. You can't do Little Women set in the 1800s.
The wardrobe wouldn't be so good
It would...
for that budget.
Yes. People would be very offended by what you could...
Yeah, they would be like, what's happening here?
But that's really what I'm drawn to is those...
that's cool.
So wait, can I ask you two
Yes,
questions,
yes.
which you can either leave in or take
No,
out. But I want to know. Okay, so I just released my first feature, which has been an emotional roller coaster, as I'm sure you remember.
Well, because the reviews come out and you're terrified to know if people think you're a complete idiot or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so how did you? One, do you feel like you are a much different director now than you were on your first film?
Interesting. No, you know what? I think if anything, I'm changed in the sense of more technical things, more like, okay, when you call cut, this is how you need to immediately respond for these reasons. When you schedule your day, schedule the most important scene first, because if you put it at the end of the day, you're going to get hosed, and the moment that you wanted to make special is not special because you had 20 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
Those technical lessons, I think I'm changed as a filmmaker, but at the core, I'm still the same person I was when I made my first feature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me.
What's your advice for someone who's just done their first feature and looking to do their next?
All right. Here's my advice to you.
Because this is a scary
time.
No,
this is a good question, because this is what happened to me and I don't want it to happen to you. Okay. When I did Saints and Soldiers, and we won a ton of film festivals and we got Independent Spirit nominations, and I got an agent and a manager, immediately in LA, the window opened and I had my 15 minutes of fame and everybody wanted to meet with me because they liked the movie, which was great. I didn't expect that or didn't know it was coming. And being a novice, not knowing what they wanted from me, I just kind of went to these meetings and they're like, yeah, how'd you do this for this amount of money? It's a really amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, yeah, so what are you going to do next? I didn't have anything on the docket. I didn't have anything. And I was just assuming that, oh, well, if you love what I do, you'll have 5 movies for me to direct and you'll just give me something. What I realize now is you really want to have that next script that you're passionate about now ready, so that when people go, oh my gosh, Claire, I just saw your movie. It's amazing. What do you want to do next? Oh, it's right here. And then they're like, oh, I want to do this with you. I want to make this happen with you, right? Whereas when you go and you have a meeting maybe with someone, and I'm not saying it can't happen. They might have something that you're perfect for. But when you take those general meetings, a lot of times they want you to have the thing. And if you don't have it, then time goes on and
lost.
They don't remember who you are. You're only the flavor of the month for 1 week. The window is smaller than you think. And you have to strike while it's hot. And I think in retrospect, had I had known that was going to happen, I would have had 2 or 3 projects that I was passionate about ready to share with them immediately.
Yeah.
What do you want to do next? I want to do another World War II movie, or I want to do a sci-fi, or I want to do this romantic comedy, or whatever. And here it is. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
So I hope that, Pride or Prejudice or whatever else you want to do, that when you take those meetings and they ask you, so what do you want to do next? You have it ready.
Yeah.
You have something instead of relying on them to be like, well, I have something for you.
Else.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to see your movie. We'll tell people where they can find you on social media. So if they want to follow you and all your awesome projects and things, where can they find you?
Mostly Instagram. I used to have a Twitter, but I've kind of let it die. I wonder if I should revive it. But it's Claire_Niederpruem.
Spell your last name. Because
Wait, I think that's my Instagram name. Yeah, that is.
I think it is.
NIEDERPRUEM as in Mary. So
there's an E in there. UEM.
UEM. Yes, exactly.
This is a German name, you said, right?
I'm like, why didn't I take my married name, which is Nelson? But that's okay.
It's all right.
I'm an independent woman.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I
yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me. It was great.